3, 2, 1. Live on YouTube.
Sick. Like clockwork.
Good morning, YouTube. Okay, next up, Instagram, the gram. Okay, we'll send the feed and get our link. Come on, Graham. Come on, IG. Don't play games tonight, IG. Come on, IG. Let's go. Give me my feed. There we go. Yes? Yes? There we are. Excellent. All right. Good morning, IG. How are you guys doing out there? Let's go live. All right. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, we are live on IG. Good morning, IG. Long time. Long time. All right. We are live on IG. And last but not least, let's bring up X. Let's get that feed going. And there we are. Beautiful. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Broadcast has been created. And boom, boom. Excellent. Our power, GLiFS, post. Okay, let's go. All right, top post on X is now live. We are live everywhere. I'm going to start the music, and I will see you in 5 minutes.
Cool.
Very good. Let's get that live. Where are we? Okay. All right. We're good everywhere. Let's start the music.
You know it's a shame when a woman spends all her time alone. When I am perfectly willing to give her everything she needs. I don't care about her past. I don't care what she's been through. I just wanna fill one night with good love, baby. That's all I wanna do. So baby, if you got that feeling, well, I wanna give you that midnight healing. You know what I'm talking about, yeah. Just turn the lights down low and come right on over here to me. I know you don't want no commitments, baby. I just wanna set your body free. And I don't care what's going
All right, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to HOP. Hang on while I do my audio check. Let me make sure everything's working good, and then we are gonna get started. It's been a while. All right. Check, check. I am not hearing audio. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, very good. Very good. Audio sounds good. If there's any problems, send me a comment somewhere or a text, but I think we are good. All right, we look good. We look live. All the feeds are steady. Welcome back, everyone, to HOP. I know it's been a while where you have not had an artist on since March. I think Chanel was our last artist, and since then we had the only show we had in the middle was the big Centaurus $1,000 giveaway. So most of you guys know the personal situation that I have got going on. However, it's not going to stop me from getting the show back on track. And happy to be back and happy to have this guest with us. I had a chance to meet this gentleman, I think almost back at, if I remember correctly, it was back in October. The Canal Street Show. I got a chance to meet Eric and Will at the Canal Street Show. It was my first time being there. What a great show those guys had put on. And I talked to both of them and asked them if they would love to come on the show. It's funny how it's almost a little, you know, life doesn't always work out the way you want it when you want it to, but has a funny way of working it out when it's supposed to. So on that note, I had a chance to check out Eric's show that opened on Wednesday, and what a great show it was. I was very impressed. But I am not going to tell you about it. I am going to let Eric come on and tell you about it. And for those of you who don't know him by Eric, let's welcome Efdot to the show. I'm going to bring him on. Hang on, Eric, before you say hello. Let me get you up on IG as well. All right, Eric, say hello to everybody.
What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in, and thank you so much, Marc, for having me.
Yeah, man, it is a pleasure. I love anybody out there who has their, I guess, shit together. And you, sir, are one of those guys that I have had my eye on. A lot of people have introduced me to your art. I'm excited to have you on the show. I got a chance to get to your, you know, Chaz. You know, it's just, you going. It's going to be a good event. And I'm like, yeah, I'm dealing with, you know, I'm dealing with my dog, and but yeah, you got to make it. So I made special preparations, but everybody was there, had a great time. You had a great show. Congratulations on your show. Before we get into any of that, Eric, why don't you take a couple minutes, give a brief introduction, and let everybody know a little bit about you, your art, and basically give them a brief rundown.
Sure. So my name's Eric. I go by Efdot the last 10 years or so. This is Penny, by the way, my dog. He's going to be popping in and out of the conversation. And so I'm an artist and a designer and a creative director, muralist, illustrator. I struggle with these titles a little bit because I just want to do everything in my own way, and I try to bring it all together through my lens, my perspective. But murals are really important to me. I would say murals are my favorite medium because I get to interact with the public in a way that's very human and face-to-face on the street as I'm painting and afterwards. It's immersive, large scale, permanent. So murals are a big driver for me, and it's what inspired me to get into digital art more as a form of public art and interactive art. So that's what I'm focused on mainly lately, is creating these systems that allow other people to express themselves. But I also do a lot of commercial work. I do a lot of client stuff, still doing murals. I'm originally from New York, the suburbs of New York, but I live in Brooklyn the last 10, 15 years. Traveling around the world really shaped what I do today and informed my current projects. So I'm always loving just getting out of the city, traveling and taking in a different culture that I'd never seen before. And I would say the last thing I'll say is I'm a skateboarder. So I've been skating for 23 years now. So even a broken ankle didn't stop me. And it's ingrained in everything I do. The persistence, the care, the style, the flow of it all kind of comes into my art in a way that's it feels like one big thing to me. Expression, and skating is part of that.
Eric, usually I like to get a good idea of how it all started. So I always ask our guests, from the very beginning, did it start off as, did you come out the womb as an artist, or is it something that evolved? Your parents, your upbringing, were you surrounded by art, or was it something different? How did your, as a child, were you influenced by art, or was it something that you found on your own? How did all that happen?
So I do have some artistic genes in my family. My grandmother was an artist, as a part-time artist in her later years, mainly, but I was exposed to that as a kid. I went into her workshop and I got to see her different mediums that she used, and she used all kinds of different things like painting and stained glass and embroidery. And so like there was always this visual textural component around, and she lived an hour away, so I wouldn't see it every day, but I would get to immerse myself in an artist studio at a very young age. And even though it wasn't her full-time job, it was something that I was like, okay, this is something that you could spend your life doing and a reason for living. Before I understood like the complexity of this world, I understood that this is a way to navigate the world and to exist as an artist. And then I also had a great uncle who is a pretty well-known photographer for the New York Times. I never actually met him, but I think that the genes are there. Like there's people in my family that are creative. So in a way I did sort of come out the womb with a bit of a predisposition, but I didn't actually discover that love for art until art class, and especially when I found skateboarding and the visual culture around that sport. It just hooked me because it was all about individualism. It wasn't about following the rules and getting the highest score or getting judged. It was really just about expression and flow. So the years between like age 3 and age 12, before I discovered skating, it was a lot of just exposure. I mean, my dad was also a musician on the side, great guitar player. So he played records, and he gave me a lot of his record collection as well, which were like, goes back to the 60s and 70s. And the album covers were a big part of the inspiration back then too. So that was kind of how it started. And then once I started taking the summer programs outside of school, I was like, okay, I want to do more and more art outside of art class and outside of my room. And it kind of just kept developing from there.
All right. How did it start? I mean, was it crayons? Was it paint? You mentioned art class.
Yeah.
How to kick off?
I would say my favorite thing as a kid was blocks. I love just building things with modular pieces and seeing what could support itself, and very different than what I did. But then I got some drawing books from my grandmother. It was like how to draw animals, how to draw landscapes, and I would like trace them out of the book and pretend like I didn't trace it and be like, look, I made this. But then I quickly learned like that's not how you create. That's how you learn to create and how do you get the muscle memory. But really the magic starts when you put the book down and you make it in your own way. So I think it was drawing and blocks and Legos were my favorite as a little kid.
You beat me to it. I was going to ask you, are you a Lego fan, Eric?
Yeah, my brother was more of a Lego fan and a Star Wars fan. He had like every Star Wars ship made of Legos. I was more into the blocks and the Connects. You remember Connects?
Sure, like, sure. Yeah.
Like the cooler version of Legos that like snap together.
All right. So, developing, right? I mean, I'm going to say a lot of times on the show you hear one or two ways it goes, right? Either the parents very supportive and pushed in the direction of art and was supportive in that direction, or not really a good way to make a living. You might want to find something more reliable or sustainable, right? At what point, putting it all together, I mean, did art translate? I'm going to imagine, what do they call it? Mid-school, high school, college. Did art translate throughout the years? I mean, or at a young age? Did it carry? Was it something that you tuned into, that you said, like I'm going to make a living at this? Or was there any distractions along the way? Or was it full blown art? I mean, when did that feeling really develop, and did it carry throughout? or did did it come and go throughout childhood?
I think when you're a kid, you don't think so much about what you're going to be when you're an adult until seriously think about what you're going to be as an adult. You can answer the question, what do you want to be? I want to be a pro skateboarder or a famous tennis player. I was really into tennis and baseball before I got into skating. And once I realized that was a little bit dangerous, and also it would be a short-term career. Skateboarding, you typically can't do it past your 40s. It's like, it gets too physically demanding. So I thought maybe I'll be a skateboard photographer or a videographer. Then I realized, I have to carry around all that gear and like crouch down at the bottom of the stairs. I don't know if I want to be doing that every day. Also, might not be able to make a living doing that either. My father pushed me into graphic design instead of studying visual art and photography and video, which is what I was really interested in. And I think the skate magazines, the graphics, the t-shirts, like it was all graphic design by someone. And I was inspired by like, everything is made by a designer. You realize like everything around you is made by someone, designed by someone. So I wanted to understand the world through design. Once I learned about what it was, my grandmother didn't really teach me too much about design. It was more like in high school, I took my first graphic design class, learned Photoshop. After doing all the physical mediums for years, it was just like a whole new world, and you can make anything you want. It's limitless, right? So that opened my mind at, I guess I was 16, 17 years old. And then when it came time to choose a major in college and a school to go to, I was very lucky to be given a scholarship to go to Drexel University in Philly. And I remember going to the communications program and thinking like, oh yeah, I want to do visual communications. Like communications is all about writing. I was in the totally wrong school. I went to like go learn about Drexel and I was in the completely wrong college. Then I figured out, okay, I have to go study graphic design. Got in and fell in love with it like from right away. Like it was foundational the first year. They just teach you how to work with black and white, how to work with shapes. And then eventually you learn about typography, which is this whole thing we take for granted every day. Fonts and type and lettering everywhere in order to navigate our world. So the more layers you peel back about how the world is designed, like the more curiosity was sparked in me. And I'm grateful to my dad for pushing me down that path, even though it wasn't natural for me at the time, because I make art these days that's very much inspired by my graphic design background.
Just out of curiosity, what Photoshop version did you learn on?
I don't remember, man. Whatever was being used back in 2006.
Okay. I don't know if it was CS1, CS2. I mean, there's been so many versions since I remember getting on the very first version and starting to figure out how to do logos, and so I thought this is a pretty powerful thing. And then watching it evolve throughout the years, and now the implementation of AI and Firefly, and just it is, Photoshop really has come a long way. Probably one of the best tools out there to create. So college, did you did you follow a career path, or did you what was did the switch flip then, or was it like, let me situate myself in marketing or advertising, or where I could get my graphic design skills, where I can hone them and be used or learn? How'd that all work out during that time period?
So Drexel was great because one thing was they had the co-op program, which is like you get a 6-month period where you have no classes and you just do an internship. Okay. And they help you get that internship, and that often leads to a job after school. Right. So that was a big reason why I went to Drexel. And also they had 3 different tracks. It was advertising, web and interactive, and the third one was print, I think. I forget, but and then there was a general track, and I very specifically did not want to do the web interactive one, even though that was what was in demand by the world. Everyone was creating websites and apps. I didn't really enjoy the process of designing websites and apps and coding those apps. So even though the market was telling me to go towards web design, I was like, no, I want to keep drawing. I want to make logos. I want to work with typography by hand and not just use fonts that are optimized for the web, but like create funky illustrative lettering pieces. So I took a few more classes in typography. I had this amazing professor named John Langdon, who passed away just a few months ago, sadly, of old age. And but he left a legacy. He created the lettering that's in the Dan Brown books, the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons. those lettering pieces that flip upside down and you can still read them, or it says something that's the polar opposite of when you had it flipped right side up. And he basically taught me that you can do anything with letter forms. It's magic, right? You can play with positive and negative space to make infinite optical illusions. And then back to my early inspirations, like my grandmother gave me this book of MC Escher drawings. So it all started to click for me during college that you don't have to be a web designer. You can professionally be yourself. That was what John taught me, is like you can learn something that no one else can really do in the way that you can do it, and almost approaching design like from the lens of an illustrator or an artist. And that's what he did, and that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
All right. I'm starting to patterns, right? And I'm going to jump in and I'm going to say, whenever I design something, I always found that one of the most important factors of that design was the font that you used. And I know at the time when I started learning about fonts, I mean, fonts are an art in themselves, which I think you refer to as typography. Adobe, they have their set fonts, but I always found the fonts, I guess they're called True TTF.
Yep.
Am I saying it right?
Type, yeah.
Yeah. The fonts that people, if you have the grid and they fill in the grid and then they start to make the letters in the that people would make the coolest fonts in the world, and those would be the ones that I would go after, the graffiti ones, or just they weren't so rigid as the Adobe fonts. They were more creative. They had Christmas fonts where little balls and trees, and a tree was an eye. And I never designed them, but I found that having a really good folder of fonts made me stronger as a creator and a designer. And I always felt like, whether I was doing an album cover, or I think we have a lot of similarities in our path. Whenever I was doing an album cover or a marketing for I did a lot of events, a lot of graphics for hip hop and club openings. I always felt like the font was really the main draw to the card. So it's funny that you're talking about, typography, because I always believed that having a solid font folder was a very big key to being a very successful creator. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's something you agree with, but I always found that fonts was, that it was, like I said, an art in itself. So it was very important there were certain sites that I would run to and always check the new fonts, and oh shit, this one, just seeing what people would create was amazing.
Agreed. And the history of type is so fascinating. And one of the things that I learned about it was that the best, most long-lasting fonts were not created when the technological booms happened. Isn't that interesting? Printing press gets invented. All of a sudden, everyone wants to make fonts. Computer gets invented. All of a sudden, everyone wants to make fonts. But guess what? The high quality stuff didn't happen in those times. It happened in the long stretches of time where only the true passionate people were working in that medium, and the opportunists were not there. So I think that can be applied to any medium. It's when it's not so popular is when the best work gets made.
I'm going to imagine that you are very well versed in the world of. Are you a calligraphy? Calligraphy, yes.
I actually called myself a sign painter for a while because I love this idea of like creating letter forms with just one pass. Calligraphy is more specifically with the ink and the pens and like the pointed pen. And so I never called myself a calligrapher, but I do love calligraphy. It's that same motion of like, how can you create a script or a type piece that's just one stroke? It's so efficient and so beautiful, and it's like just like poetry, like playing music. You just can't go backwards. You only go forwards. And so I love calligraphy and sign painting. I apprenticed with a few sign painters after I finished graphic design school. I did my whole thesis about sign painting, actually, photographing all the old hand painted signs around Philly and New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. And like you learn history not only of the craft but of the city through that, and what this building used to be before it was what it is now. And that to me like was just endlessly inspiring. I made a book about it, a whole kit that you could have to like learn the art of sign painting. Meanwhile, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have much experience. So that's why I went and apprenticed after school and learned the ropes.
I'm going to imagine that you share the same appreciation that I do when you walk by a bar or anywhere in the village or Brooklyn or anywhere, and they have the blackboard, and they really do a tremendous job on the special. Somebody in the place is an artist, because, I remember seeing signs, especially, I don't know if you remember, like on the old oak tag signs in the windows, where they would be like literally perfect. And I'm like, there's no way a human did that. And then I actually saw a human do that with the brush strokes and the lines. And I'm like, wow, that is meticulous work. But there's so many talents. But let me tell you, when I'm walking in the city and I see those signs, and I see someone like you could see the ones that really stand out, and they're perfect, and the lines are perfect, the specials are perfect, and it's got I'm like, is that people really put pride into that. That's something I always catches my eye and I appreciate. But sign work is I mean, you're talking about a complete art form, and where you could actually see the pencil lines where they make those lines so light. And I didn't know how they kept it. I thought they did it freehand. And some people, I mean, if you even as IG videos or TikTok videos, and you see some people freehanding it, I mean, that's something that always amazes me, because if I do it, by the time I reach the end of the line, the letters end up becoming smaller, and it ends up coming on a slant, and I'm like, God, it's like, so it's definitely an art to it. I think I'm starting to see a connection between your art and the typography now, which is it's cool. This is the important part of getting to learn about someone. A job. You mentioned that interning, and then finally, did you end up? I don't know if I missed it, but did you land a place to work out of college? I mean, is that what happened from there?
Yeah, so I did 2 internships, both part-time. One of them was at an agency that was more advertising and web focused. And then the other one was a company within Viacom, which is the same company that owns Nickelodeon, MTV, VH1. So I was working in Times Square, interning at this place called MTV Scratch. That was an agency that sort of helped brands to reach the millennial audience and relate and create advertising that was specifically for that. I liked parts of the job. It was cool to be a part of these big companies, but also I was doing low-level intern stuff. I was commuting through the most touristy place in the city every day, and it was cool for a while. But then after a few months, I just kind of said, you know what, this isn't for me, and I want to travel. So I went and looked around on the internet, found an internship in Europe, and I had never spent that much time in Eastern Europe. I did do a small study abroad in Prague when I was at Drexel, but I thought I want to go back to Eastern Europe. That's where my ancestry is really from. So I found this internship in Lithuania, of all countries, just completely random. I was on Craigslist just scrolling one day, graphic design internship in Lithuania. And then I had a meeting with someone in Penn Station area and got coffee. And then 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Lithuania. So I spent 4 months there, came back, tried to go full time. I went on and off trying to be a full-time artist and designer, doing lettering, doing murals. I would work for a few months, and then I would go and get a full-time job for a few months, or freelance. You ever heard of permalance? You know what that is? Permalance?
The name sounds very familiar. I'm not going to place it, but go ahead, finish.
It's like freelance is when you don't have any benefits. It's just a project by project employment.
Okay.
Permalance is like, we're going to have you as a freelancer until further notice. Okay. And you don't get all the benefits of being a full-time employee, but we want you here full-time, and you're going to be paid better than you would if you were freelancing or full-time, because it's a risk, right? They could let you go at any moment. There's no commitment, but it was great pay at the time for me to like save and build a bit of connections just in the agency world, the brand world. And all those people went on to work at different places now, and I stay in touch with a lot of them. So I'm really happy that I spent time in the beginning of my career working at all these different agencies and brands, even though it wasn't exactly where I wanted to be at the time. I wanted to be in my own studio, but I was building the network, and I was getting my work out there and experimenting and trying new things with my art with different creative directors. Fast forward, I ended up at this experiential marketing agency for 3 years. That's where I did my first mural. I was painting on, I was designing these large scale graphics for their events, but the next day they'd get thrown in the trash most of the time because it was just for an event. And, you know, I didn't like that. I wanted to have something more permanent. So I started just painting, like doing the chalkboard murals inside the agency office. And then eventually I found some walls in the street. But Photoshop was a key tool because I would, before I could get approval to paint the murals, I would use Photoshop to just mock it up, walk right into the business and say, hey, I saw you have this graffiti outside. I put my artwork here in Photoshop and I could make this real if you want. And eventually that started to work. And then I tried to go full-time again. It didn't work. Or I guess I didn't give it a year of patience. I sort of just like tried it out. And then all of a sudden another company said, hey, we want you to work for us. We found you on LinkedIn. And that was WeWork. WeWork was going global at the time, exploding with different co-working spaces in different countries and cities around the world. And so they were building a specific art and design team to do like the interior artwork for the spaces, whether it was like murals or wallpapers or neon signs. It was really cool stuff that they were building and making each space feel custom to the neighborhood, and even hiring local artists to put their local flavor on it. So I took that job and grew with them for 3 years. They sent me down to South America where I got to build a whole team. And that was really where I found my current illustration style and my characters and my colors that I use today. It was like traveling through Latin America for 2.5 years.
Okay. Picked up the colors, I imagine, especially. It's interesting because you hear a lot of stories of people who never leave a 9-block radius in the city, you know, and then there's other people who have no problem picking up, packing up, and you know, here, there. And I do believe that when you travel, that is when, you know, you not so, you know, you open as an artist. You see more. You see different styles. I've also found it very interesting how in the world, when one half of the world was not able to communicate with the other half of the world, still the same things were taking place, just in different cultures, different cultural ways. You know, art, every culture has art, but yet the way the art's created comes from that, you know, area of the way those people lived or grew up, or the weather they experienced. Some people have never experienced a winter, you know, and so therefore it stays, you know, warmer all year around, different color palette, lots of different, you know, and you don't experience that until you get out there. To me, it's one of the strongest things that you could possibly do to expand your art, your style, or you know, to see so many different things. I think it takes. I think you need to see a lot. I've always said that. I think it's important to try everything, because you never know what clicks or what fits. Sometimes people see things and I belong right there. You know, you get that feeling. How did that whole moment in time? How did the style? How did you know? How did you know? You know, how did you? You know, so many different things, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, this is working. Was it just like a natural thing that you felt, or was it you saw people responding to it, or you know? As I always say, one of the hardest things to do is use Zapata, right? You see a Palometa, use Zapata, right? So it's and now, you know, when you look at your art, it's you know, oh, that's I know who that, you know, that I feel is one of the hardest things for an artist to develop, because a lot of times you fall into this whole doing it for the people rather than doing it for yourself. So what was it that happened during that time period that you became more secure and more confident in knowing that, all right, this is I feel that this is what I feel, I'm going in this direction? I mean, was there signs, or was there anything that, you know, was the response from people was different? I'll let you talk about it.
Thanks for the question. It's a good one. So I started my Instagram in 2010 when I was going through college. It was actually FD0T was my first Instagram. Then I realized that I was competing with the Florida Department of Transportation for Google searches. So I added back the E, and now it's my initials, Efdot, EF. So how did I find the style? I guess the typography and the lettering that I was doing naturally gravitated towards these funky 70s style letter forms where everything was bold and chunky and kind of odd and peculiar. I preferred that feeling when you see a lettering piece that you've never seen that style before, or the words are being communicated through the style of the letter forms in a way that is just way more than you could do with a font. So that was my challenge from 2012 to 2015. Then in 2016, I broke my ankle skateboarding, purchased an iPad, and I was laid up for over a year. I could barely walk. I had like 3 surgeries on my ankle. It was really rough, but the iPad and the digital art and this challenge that I did got me through. And I don't know if you ever heard of Inktober, but Inktober is like a challenge where you create an illustration a day, or yeah, I think it's just illustration or lettering, a piece every day for October. And I said, I'm going to make an illustration a day about skateboarding. And I wasn't really doing much illustration before that. So I went from doing lettering to then illustrations with lettering, just black and white at the time. I learned some color theory in school, but I didn't mention this before, but I'm partially colorblind. So I don't see colors the same way that everyone else does. I actually have a really hard time differentiating colors when they're close together. And that's why you see me using a lot of highly contrasting colors, because it's the colors I can see clearly. And I don't know what you see. We just kind of all agree that blue is blue and red is red, and we'll never really know. And once I learned that everybody sees color differently, I started to embrace more color in my work. And so that 30-day series of illustrations turned into more colorful pieces, more murals. And then when I was at WeWork, I was surrounded by people who were so good with color. Like they could paint with their eyes closed, almost like they could feel the frequencies of the colors in their heart. It was incredible. And then when I went down to Latin America, I was just immersed in different types of street art than I was normally seeing in New York. You know, New York's the mecca for graffiti. It's a lot of the same styles though. So you go down south, you go to Brazil, it's totally different graffiti style. Argentina, where I was based,
Right.
Mexico.
Right.
I got to see Frida and Diego's house and see their collection of art, and all these things were influencing me. And I had my head on a what's the word? Head on a
swivel.
I had my head on a swivel of like inspiration around me. And I knew I wanted to develop a signature character for a long time. And I was trying to do that through the illustration project, the Inktober series. And it started to come out. Like I knew it wanted to be minimal, a little bit abstract, kind of mysterious, where you don't really know what the character is feeling based on the way it looks. It doesn't have a happy smile face like a cartoon. It's more like it's about the spaces between the notes and what the viewer brings to the artwork. And before really understanding what I was doing with that, I was drawing the blob and these characters in my sketchbook. And I was missing home so much when I was in Argentina. I didn't speak the language very well when I moved there at the time. And I just retreated to my sketchbook, and I discovered this character at a really low moment in my life, actually, and I needed a friend. So I created this blob that I started painting around at the skate park and tagging up on the walls where I felt like I wouldn't get kicked out of the country. And it just started following me around everywhere I went. I made paintings for friends. I started drawing on my own skateboard, and eventually screen prints and supporting the local artisans in Argentina with like collaborating with them. And that was the beginning of it all, really. It was feeling homesick, wanting something to center myself. And then eventually I realized that this is a very universal symbol. It feels kind of ancient in that it's like this tucked up character that's like almost still inside the womb and gestating and in a cocoon almost of creativity, and then emerging in many different colorful ways. And I like to think of the blob as more of an energy than a character, because sometimes it's just breaking apart into a million dots and lines. That's still the same thing, where it's all interconnected. So when you see the character, it's more obvious, but it's embedded in all my lines and dots and patterns that I create.
I have 2 questions for you. First question is, I'm gonna save that to the end. I'm gonna. This is an easy question, but I know you're gonna lead off the next question. So first question. I always used to NYU. I went to NYU after I went to engineering at Manhattan College. I went to NYU for film and arts after my bachelor's, and I always used to take the train. I did that for about a year, and I had enough of the train. I would work as an engineer, and then I would go down to the city around 4, 5, 6 and take night classes at NYU. And after a year of being on the train at night back and forth, I tapped out. I would take my car down, and I would drive down FDR Drive, cut across Houston. I'd be down at Tisch, and it was a much easier and more pleasant and more stress-free travel. But on the way down, I would always pass this orange wall with figures. A very famous wall. I don't, for some reason, the name of the artist is not coming to me, but very prominently known, I think, in the 70s and 80s. All breakdancing figures. I have to look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Is it Keith Haring?
Yeah. I think let me just confirm that right now.
That sounds right.
I think you're right. I think you probably know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, super famous mural artist.
Yes.
I didn't really know his work very much when I was going through design school. Somehow they didn't teach us about the 80s pop art movement as much.
Right.
I learned about it in art history class, but I didn't understand the gravity of it until I moved back to New York and like started to immerse myself in the street art and talk about these famous figures like Basquiat and Warhol and Haring. And I was more talking about the famous designers back then rather than the famous street artists. But as I got more into it, I realized that his philosophy really resonated with me. You know, art is for everyone. Everyone has their own line. You can never duplicate someone's line. If you can do that one shot, that calligraphic motion, it's yours. No one can copy that. Obviously, a straight line is easy to copy, but something that has a lot of twists and turns, it's really your own signature every time you do it. So that inspired me to find my own. There was another artist I was collaborating with a lot at the time who I met in Mexico named Stefan. He was massively inspired by Keith Haring. And so Stefan encouraged me to look more into that and to not feel like, oh, Penny, come on, you can't eat that. She's eating flowers. I don't know if this is good for her. Let's see. Here she is. Yeah, so Keith definitely inspired me a lot. And a fun fact is he died very young, but he died on the year that I was born. So in a way, I do feel like I'm carrying the torch and bringing some of the philosophy that he sculpted, adding my own and abstracting it a lot more, of course. But I'm trying to carry that forward into the digital realm.
Yeah, so thanks for answering that. I was curious if Keith had any influence, and that's crazy how you the year he died and born. I always say the soul never dies; it just transfers. So very interesting. I'm glad I asked that question. That was because when I first saw your art, that's who I immediately thought of. I wouldn't know the name as much as I do other artists, but I remember that style everywhere in New York. I remember how big that was, and I remember always seeing it, and it was it stood out, and then I remember coming across your art, and then learning about you, and then I'm like, holy shit, this reminds me of driving down in the city when I used to see the racquetball courts that guy painted. Okay, second question. Wednesday night, you spoke a lot about symbols, how the influence of symbols. And I'm just super curious, after seeing the GLiFS collection, obviously hieroglyphics, right? Because that's where I'm going with this. Did you ever study, how... I guess the first thing I'm going to go to is the Egyptian walls, or, any of the hieroglyphics that, from long ago, are you, is that something you've taken interest in and paid very close attention? Does it have any influence? You speak a lot about symbols in your art. You speak a lot about, little characters. And if you really explore and take a look at each one of these glyphs, you could see the influence. And I'm curious if obviously you named it GLiFS, so maybe I'm asking kind of a redundant question here, but how much influence of hieroglyphics comes into play here in your art and your creation of your style?
Yeah, so I had a book growing up about the Egyptian hieroglyphs, and I had that in my subconscious, although I hadn't dove deep into learning what they actually meant. They were very still like intriguing to me, the way that you could communicate with such simple forms. I mean, we do this every day with letters, and we take them for granted, but the letters are different than what's called a logographic language. Logographic language is where where it's composed of symbols, images, concepts, ideas. So it's like in Chinese or like in kanji, where you could have a glyph that means serenity, or another glyph that means that's a specific form of prayer, and then there's just a symbol for that. So, and then it's also interesting how different cultures have symbols and words for things that we don't. Like, did you know that in Russia, there's 2 different words for blue? There's light blue and there's dark blue. They are not the same color. I didn't know that until recently. So it's just about perception and how we're immersed in culture from a young age. And then traveling down to Latin America was really when I got immersed in hieroglyphics, because I saw the Mayan and Aztec ruins. I went to a lot of museums. I saw it in the culture. Like, they really respect the indigenous traditions a little bit more than we do in the United States, or at least it's more ingrained. Like, people have a dual identity there. They don't feel like they're just Spanish, conquerors. Like, they're European mixed with the indigenous people of Latin America. And everywhere you go, there's a different flavor of that. And some of them have these insanely beautiful carvings in the museums. And Maya script was my most favorite. And I got to spend a lot of time in the Yucatan Peninsula, in Oaxaca, central Mexico City. And once I learned Spanish fluently, I could really get around, and I could go on a tour and just have a Spanish speaking tour guide tell me about these glyphs. And I learned so much, and I realized that a lot of these symbols were repeating. Some of the stuff that was happening in Egypt and Australia and Africa were also happening in Latin America. And seemingly those 2 cultures, those different cultures, had no communication. So it says something about the human race when the spiral appears carved into all these different ruins and mountains. And even in the United States, I just went to the Valley of Fire and saw carvings in old, thousands of years ago, these rocks that have similar forms that you see around the world. And that started to make me feel like, okay, if I were to make my own visual language, I can actually do that without appropriating in a negative way. I can find the patterns that resonate with me across cultures and then pay homage to the different cultures through these types of conversations around the glyphs. It's a lot of information. And the last thing I'll say is, like, when we have experiences and then we try to describe them to other people, we're trying to compress the meaning of our life into words. But I think that there's a lot that's lost when we do that. We all know that the raw experience is much more rich than the description of the experience. Same thing with a photo of an experience at a concert. It never does it justice, right? So the symbols compress meaning in a different way. It doesn't lose so much as it compresses it. It concentrates the meaning. It allows interpretation. There's no dictionary where you can go and say, that's what that symbol means, and that's all it means. Symbols come in and out of style, just like words, but a little more abstractly. So as I was developing this, I was like, how can I create something that's recognizable, but also open to interpretation a little bit? Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, Rio art residency with Miss Selke. Any experience?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so happy you brought that up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years of Rio art residency have already happened. We're skipping this year to raise money for next year and kind of rebrand the project. Okay. But Selke is an amazing friend and collector of my work, artist, supporter, builder, just a visionary, really. And her story inspired me. Like, she moved from Brazil to London. She became a really experienced PR person, and also worked with a lot of like politicians, and she just understood how to manage things very well in a way that I couldn't. So whenever I need help, I'm like, Selke, help me. And so she did the same. She said, hey, Eric, I want to build this residency. You're the first artist I want to invite. Would you help me curate this and build it? And eventually I started helping her so much that she's asked me to be the co-founder. Okay. So at first I was like the lead artist, and we did a mural workshop every year so far. That's my main contribution, is let's get the community together, all the artists and the local people, get them onto the beach, and leave something behind that feels respectful, but also unique to this moment. I like to think that my murals belong to the people that inhabit the city more than they belong to me. So I try to really teach that when I do these workshops. And I've loved the residency because not only are we bringing artists from around the world to this house for us to just simply create for a week and let go of other responsibilities, but we also bring in local artists who have never joined these digital communities yet and they've never minted their work before. We bring them in, show them the ropes, get them to mint their first artworks. And some of them are even from the poorest neighborhoods of Rio. And now they're sitting right next to Brian Brinkman on Super Rare. So it's pretty cool to see that.
I got so many things floating around in my head. I gotta organize them. Maya, you mentioned Mayans. Maya. I don't know if you remember the 3D program Maya with the symbol.
Yeah.
As the logo, right? That reminds me of this everything, right? I don't know why that flashed into my head, but surprised you're not into the understanding of the GLiFS, a little Egypt, right? And to think almost how many years later, and these walls, and they obviously didn't speak. It's interesting how they didn't speak, have a language, but yet they spoke with images. And you could see these images, how they told stories. And now getting to know the GLiFS drop and the collection and getting a chance to see everything take place in Loom Studios and your art and the evolution of your art. And now here we are, and you're talking about putting together a language with images. It wouldn't be crazy, 100, 200, 300 years from now, they start pulling up your hieroglyphics,
Yeah, well, the way I designed this is kind of a future glyph experiment because the original pieces, the 300 drawings that I animate on the 7-frame loop, those are going to be fully on chain. I'm actually minting those today and starting to distribute those to people that reserved their favorites. But I wanted people to enter this project by using the language because the language doesn't actually exist until people use it. So that's why I started with the co-created 3,000 pieces. And now I'm minting the original characters, but those are fully on chain so that if the 3,000 piece collection ever goes down, like IPFS ever is lost or somehow hundreds of years, or hopefully it lasts for 100 years, Ethereum, right? If it ever goes down, the on-chain pieces are still there. So you can use the original glyphs to rebuild the 3,000 glyphs if there's a record of the sequence that was created. The image can be lost, but the sequence is still there and the values of the colors. So there's different ways that we can create this like excavation that could potentially happen after we're all gone.
The blockchain locks it all in. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Hang on.
Yeah.
There's a little section here I think we're missing.
Okay.
You started to cultivate your own art. I'm going to imagine that there's a time period with the murals, the paintings, merchandise. I'm going to imagine the advertising and all that experience started to come into play as far as marketing yourself, you're great with merchandise, by the way. I always preach about merchandising. I always preach about marketing, social media. It's all part of but you have to be an artist in every section now. You just can't be an artist and do art. You got to be an artist in social media marketing, artist in marketing your own launches, artists, it's a little tiny, so you got to be more than just an artist today, especially with the use of social media.
I don't know about that.
No,
I think some people have checked out of social media for good reasons. It just doesn't resonate with their personality to be promoting themselves all the time. So some people just like I was in Florence last year for an art show, great digital festival called Primavera Digitale. Okay. And I was just walking through the public square. I saw these guys painting the buildings for the tourists and they're selling their pieces. And I said, how long have you been painting in this one spot? He said, 16 years. And I was like, do you have an Instagram? He's like, yeah. He said, yeah, but I don't really post it there. I enjoy the conversations here. So you don't have to do this the way that artists are doing this. It's very overwhelming. There's so many platforms and algorithms, and it just messes with you. So I understand why certain artists, even the people I worked with at WeWork, they were like, I don't want to be a social media influencer at all. I want to find a way to make art that works for me. So you don't have to do it. But I agree, it's fun for some of us to do the merchandise, to do the videos, to do the marketing, and it's kind of addicting in a good way. And you can get your message out there to a lot more people versus just being stuck in one location. So, but you don't have to do that. I just think that it's a great opportunity right now, and we may look back on this period as like the golden age of digital artists finding their footing.
I agree and definitely resonate with so much of what you said. I think we're not used. There's a certain age group that's not used to it being part of the routine. So it's very easy to alienate it. However, it could easily bring you to the next level if you implement it correctly, especially AI, which we're going to get to that next. But there's I'm going to imagine there was a little moment in time where you focused on the physical art, the physical shows, the merchandise, the creations before the social media came, and then your introduction to the digital world and NFTs, and then incorporating that into your art. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about, that time period before it hit the internet, or
Sure.
when I say that, I say before it hit the digital sales and the digital NFT sales and the blockchain before all of that came to, before you implemented all of that and learned about it. How did it work for you how did you cultivate it in the physical world?
Well, I think finding your voice as an artist is the big thing. You could be as technically profound or technically skilled at painting, but if you don't have something to say, then it doesn't really resonate. So my big defining moment in my origin story is when in 2014, I lost everything I owned to a building fire. I was home at the time. This is the scariest day of my life. I just kind of ran out of the building when I noticed what was happening. I had no idea how it started, still to this day. No idea how the fire started. It started in the backyard of this small apartment building. And the second floor apartment burned all the way through. But one of the pieces that made it out of the apartment, I was able to go back in and find my scanner, which was like melted. But inside the scanner, almost perfectly intact, was this drawing that I made, and it said optimist. And so that message of optimism that I had written for myself a week before the fire, it was just sitting in my scanner. I found it and I said, I think this is important. This is a sign. It's almost like my future self came back in time to put that there at the right moment. And I got chills when I found that. I said, it reminded me of who I am, because I was in such distress and so confused about what to do next. We had insurance, but it didn't really cover much at the time. I was living with someone else, and it was just so complicated. So I looked in the mirror and I looked at this drawing and I said, do I want to be an optimist in this moment, or do I want to let this fire define me for the rest of my life? And so I started making art with this message of optimism and uplifting people, and other people started sharing their stories with me about how they're at their lowest moment, but my drawings and my videos and my story gave them hope. And so that feeling of connectedness that I had with strangers was new. Digital technology enabled that, because I could post photos on Instagram for the first time and get this message, this optimist piece out there in so many different formats, from like embroidered patches, pins, hats, shirts, murals. I just would draw this optimist lettering everywhere. And so that was my message that I thought was so important to share. And it may be cheesy to some, but when you learn my story, hopefully you understand why I do that. I think I may have gotten a little bit off of base of your question, which was about the physical art. So yes, I before I started selling digital art, I was making paintings, drawings, and prints, limited edition prints with my characters and with these lettering pieces. And then in 2020, right as lockdown was starting to happen, I got a call from Topps baseball cards. Okay. And they said they wanted me to do 20 remixes of famous rookie cards. And it was a part of a project with 20 different artists. And they were going to come out with them throughout the year as open editions on their website. And however many people ordered the card, that's how many copies get printed. And it was just like very thick premium card for like $20. And I got to put my spin on these legends. And I loved baseball growing up. So it gave me that chance to go back in time. That was the first time I had thousands of collectors who were curious about what I was going to do next. And I'm so grateful that came when it did, because a lot of my mural projects got canceled because of the pandemic.
Right.
So that project got me through, and it enabled me to create the first version of the GLiFS, which were 8x8-inch drawings on paper. I sold them all for charity since I was doing pretty well at the time with Tops. And there was just so much crazy stuff happening in the world that I wanted to give back. And I continued to give back through these projects. And GLiFS is, there's some announcements coming that I want to involve nonprofits. One of them, Maya Spirits, who I've collaborated with in the past. But the physical became more digital as I started leaning into the iPad, and the Tops deadlines were really tight. And so I started doing the entire process on my iPad, not even any physical sketches for some of these cards. Even though I tend to get my better ideas when I'm drawing on paper, because there's less options, just pencil, paper, nothing else. Focus on the ideas, not the colors. And then through the Tops project, people started asking me about NFTs, because it was the same time that Beeple made his big sale, and everyone was jumping in and making a collection or making one-of-ones. And I got an invite to Foundation through a friend early, and Foundation is where I put my first piece. And then eventually my first collection, Open Minds, which was on OpenSea. And then I made one other project in that first year that was designed to help bring in some of these card collectors into the digital space. So it was a companion card that you could collect on Nifty Gateway and get a physical card that was printed on metal. And I started thinking about editions and the future of these things, because the NFTs could outlast us, unlike these cards, which get lost or damaged or easily faked as well. So it just started to make more and more sense at the time that authenticity, provenance, the artist royalties felt like more fair in the secondary market. And I felt like I could build something where the incentives were actually aligned. Whereas on regular social media, the incentives are all messed up, and Meta and X and YouTube pretty much get all the money that all the value that you're creating. It goes straight to the tech company. I saw these artists like Dave Krugman creating his own ecosystem that was all about empowering artists and proving that a creative life is possible. And going to his meetups, like seeing the real people that were making these sales already on Super Rare, made me feel like I could do the same. And so that was 2020 when I jumped in, 2021.
We are, all right, for everybody out there watching, if you guys got questions, feel free to start dropping them now. We're going to move to the computer soon. Eric said 2 hours, a little long. I said, hey, you don't know how fast it's going to go. We're 1 hour in the books. I want to start heading over to the computer soon and talking about the new project you got. I want to show everybody a little bit about your art, maybe the evolution of your art, and then I want to focus a lot on GLiFS that's just dropped, and would love to show some media and everything that is taking place there. Where do I want to go from here? What I noticed is you are very... Sabet was on the show, and I thought Sabet was very, very good at creating opportunities with collaborations. Two types of collaborations I'm referring to. There's collaborations with companies, like you mentioned with Tops. Creepy Steve also collaborated with Tops, V-Friends. And you see artists make connections. I believe you had an opportunity with the Golden Goose sneaker company. And then there is the other type of collaboration where you involve other artists. You'll collab with another artist and create an artwork. So you seem to have a very good grasp on drawing revenue. And anybody who really runs their own company knows the difference between personal creative revenue and then corporate revenue. A big difference between the two. Usually corporate revenue is what keeps you alive, eating and the lights on and continuing to create, where the smaller revenues are getting your artwork into new collectors' hands, so forth and so on. I've always believed in collaborations, and you seem to have a lot of different collaborations. artist collaborations, company collaborations, as well as your own artwork, prints, merchandise, murals, where that's just your draw. But then there's plenty of different revenue draws, which you seem to have established, which I always believed that was the path of a very stable art career, was to find it from everywhere. I always say in spaces, you can make a piece and sell it for $1 million. You could make the video of you creating that piece. It could bring in 30 million views and you could still make the same $1 million. You might not sold that piece, but it would bring a lot of attention to that piece, which would then bring the value of that artwork up. So there's a lot of, would you be upset if you didn't sell it and you made the same amount through social media? Or would you be upset if a brand deal? But I have always believed the path to a very successful art career is having a lot of different branches, octopus, a lot of different legs going in different directions. How do you feel? You seem very strong when it comes to collaborations. Everything that I just said, you want to put some maybe thoughts to that, or
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
Sure. I guess I noticed the real powerful part about collaborations when I was first getting into murals. Since it's such a large scale wall, it's more fun. It's a little faster when you get a friend to help. So I would invite these people into that agency after hours in the office, and we'd do a chalkboard mural, 2017, 2016, or actually maybe 2015. Wow. And the conversations that I had during those mural sessions were some of the best conversations that I ever had with artists. Just when you're free flowing and your body's moving, and it's almost like going on a walk with someone who already understands you, and you can just connect deeply, and you're in motion. There's things to respond to. I was just picking up all these tips and tricks along the way as well of how they think about approaching a mural. So collabs became a cornerstone for me, something I chased, but never forced, because if it felt forced, it defeated the whole purpose of it. And so when people reach out to me and say, hey, want to collab? If that's their first message to me, it's usually not going to happen unless it's a brand that's like paying me to do it. I want to get to know the other artists a little bit more and make sure that it feels like a good collab. That's why I've created these systems like GLiFS, where people can sort of collab with me and get to know my work through that collab. And then maybe in the future, there's another collab that happens with that artist or that person who has spent a little time in my studio with me. In terms of the brand deals, I love the commercial work because it feeds my ideas into the fine art as well. Like, it may seem counterintuitive to do things for a company's goals and then pick up things from that and bring them into your paintings, but somehow it works for me. I'm able to freely, I can show them whatever sketches I want, right? They might not accept them, but I can throw all these ideas at the wall and I'm getting paid to make them, versus like the other way, I'm not. I'm just doing it, and hopefully I can sell the drawing or the painting later to keep going. So I use the client work as a springboard to be able to make my first fine art collections and to keep making murals. Sometimes they were unpaid. Sometimes I lost money on the murals. I just wanted to make it, and I would pay for all the paint and everything myself. But the commercial work would sort of pay for that. So it's like, take from the rich, give to the poor, like get the corporations to fund it, and then get the people who really need the art to experience it.
Yeah, you got the formula. 100%. I was just curious about that, but the formula is definitely. So I understand. I did a lot of corporate work as well, and then the integration of your art with a do you ask for full creative control, or do you make the decision on, when the call comes in? What do you need me to do, and do you then make that like, how does it? What's do you have stipulations? The
stipulations are usually like mutual respect, fair compensation, and a bit of creative freedom. But if someone is creative themselves, I'm actually interested in what they see in my work and where they think the project could go. I try not to treat feedback or creative direction as gospel. Like, I let my mind wander where it wants to wander, and I let the art speak to me as it's being developed. And it's hard to put deadlines on that sometimes because it doesn't happen when you expect it. The breakthroughs come when you least expect it. So, and a lot of times it's very close to the deadline for me. Somehow my brain just kicks into overdrive. So I try to get as much creative freedom as I can. And my goal for my murals is to one day be able to improvise everything. So I just get given the wall and maybe a color palette, and I just show up with the paint and I figure it out as I go, because it's very forgiving. You can go over it. If you mess up, you can sketch with a very light color on white, and that's sort of like a sketchbook drawing at a massive scale, and then you color it in from there. So I want that to be my process, and I'm lucky to have done over a dozen murals that way, where I just show up with no plan, just an emotion, and kind of lean into my moment. But I think the other way of doing it, where the mural is pre-designed and you're just sort of projecting it, tracing it, outlining it, and then filling it in, that's also very meditative. And I like to do that for my client projects too. It just depends on the style exactly, the size of the wall. Because sometimes improvising a massive wall is just too difficult. You got to use a projector to get the proportions right or the spacing right. And then sometimes there's like a hybrid where I'll use tape, or I'll use transfer paper, or there's like 4 or 5 different methods for getting your design onto the wall. And then like the 5th or 6th method is just improvise. And I want to do more and more of that. Creative freedom is actually, my last name translates to son of freedom. So I resonate with the concept of creative freedom, like ever since I learned that.
Okay. I want to start changing the format up. I want to head over. I want to bring up maybe your IG and start flicking through so people get an idea as we continue to have our conversation. We want to speak about GLiFS, your new project that was just dropped, the show on Wednesday. And I'd love to go over anything that you might want to bring attention to as well. So you ready to head over and start bringing this stuff up, Eric?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right. Give me 1 second to get over there. Eric, quick question while I get everything set up and rearranged. For artists out there who are watching and everybody, paying attention, what if it seems like to me a lot of your, like you said, you were building connections as you were working throughout advertising and with the agencies. Is that so? What if an artist doesn't have that opportunity, right? But yet they want to reach out and work with people, I'm not entirely sure if all of your collaborations did they come from your experience in the workforce, or did you reach out through social media? What kind of advice would you give for people out there that might want to follow the same path?
Well, I try not to give too much advice because everyone's path is different and they're coming to it with a unique set of circumstances that may be different from mine. But I can certainly share some of the things that I learned from people that are much smarter than me that helped me get to where I am. And one of those things is that you have to realize that you basically get a very short amount of time from everyone, whether you're in person or online. Online, it's like a split second. They're scrolling on the timeline, and the attention span keeps getting shorter and shorter. So you have to figure out a way to stand out in these spaces on the internet or in person. On the internet, there's many more places to access. What are we looking at here?
Yeah. What I'm doing is I'm setting up the second screen to bring up your artwork next to you. Yeah.
What was I talking about? I lost my train of thought.
Oh, sorry. I mean,
we're talking about
moment in time on the internet with the feed.
Oh, yes.
And the.
So you basically get a split second of everyone's time. So you have to figure out how to deliver your gift in that cup. And I say cup because it's almost like coffee. You can have the best coffee in the world, but if you put it in a dirty cup, it kind of ruins it, right? So you got to figure out how to package your essence as an artist into these small little spaces and times. It's very difficult. And it kind of goes against the history of art, where artists didn't have to do that in the past. They would express themselves. They would be a part of a movement. It's just movements happen faster these days. I think the participatory art movement is what I'm adding to the most, getting the people to be involved, whether it's a mural and they're painting it with me or a glyph that they're customizing. So that's one of my ways that I'm trying to stand out. But the other piece of advice that helped me was that, people don't notice announcements. You can announce that you're doing a show. People won't notice the announcement. They notice the consistency. So it's when you show up every day for a long enough period of time that people just start naturally magnetizing to you. It's another good metaphor for this is like Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump walked across the country, right? But people didn't care when he started. It was only when he got days into his journey that, you walk a straight line for long enough, people start to care. So it's the same with art. If you can find something, doesn't have to be a medium or a style. It could be a color. It could be an idea. It could be a message. If you are consistent with something over a long period of time, people will come to you. And the more places you can get it out to, the better. Or at least you got to think about where your target audience is. The more, ideally, like a few places, and just stay consistent. That's what helped me grow on Instagram. Try to work with people that don't mind you sharing the work as it's being made. Share the process. Let people in on the rough sketches and the things that aren't so polished, and it just helps people get more invested in it. Those are like my top 3 pieces of advice that helped me to grow and find opportunities. But I will say I was very lucky and privileged to grow up near New York City. My father worked in New York City for most of his career, so he introduced me to a few people and helped me get one of those early internships. So I'm very lucky with that. But you have connections, you have friendships, you have relationships that you're probably not building as much as you could. And that's another area, is relationships. If you can invest in others, they want to invest in you.
I don't want to, I know 2010 is a long time, but I'm going to try and scroll back as far as possible here as we continue to talk. Would you say this is such a difficult question to answer, because I don't think there's any weight to this, but would you say what percentage of collaborations came out of exposure through the internet or exposure through contacts? Would you say they're about the same, or one more heavier than the other? Was it your work? Was it your employment record over time that created those contacts, or was it more of a internet? Hey, I love his work, I'm going to reach out to him. Where would you say one or the other mattered, or a combination of both? I mean, I don't think this is something that could be pinned down, but I figured I'd ask.
Well, early on, when you're getting started and looking for your first clients and collaborators who can actually afford to pay for your lunch or give you some money to keep going, it's really hard because you don't have a portfolio yet. You don't have like case studies that showed how you did this for someone else. So you kind of have to fake it till you make it a little bit. And then once you start getting these contacts or clients, it starts to snowball. Then you have things to share on the internet, real stories, real connections, real events that you're sort of creating your own chronicles of publicly. And then you start to get the exposure from other people. And in the beginning, I worked with a lot of clients that I wasn't super excited about. I just wanted to do it to get the experience. I was excited about the experience. I wasn't excited about the product they were selling. One of them was like fried food, for example. I did this whole restaurant in New York City that was all about these like chicken fingers, and I like did the menus and the branding and the mural, and like it was another job. It was cool because it was a real restaurant in New York City, but they weren't selling something I was passionate about. Actually, that's not true. I like fried food, but I didn't feel great that like this is unhealthy and I'm helping promote that with my art. So over time, I started to say no to the clients that I don't resonate with, and get more and more clients that I do resonate with. And over time, it just gets better and better. But I would say nowadays, it's like 90% just inbound. People finding me through Instagram or Twitter or through some space like this, and then they email me or message me about a project and a collab. Yeah.
I'm going through the Topps cards now. I think I hit I think I'm back around 220. So I'm kind of flicking through your art as we talk.
Cool.
Let's. I do want to talk about GLiFS, but I do want people to catch some of this art. As far as you know, a lot of artists they talk about as an agency work. I like need an agent. I need a manager. I need
Hold on, stop. Go back to that colorful artwork that you were just looking at
Let me flip.
a few slides ago, because that one was led to my first NFTs. The maybe 10 images ago. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay. Also remember, there's a 15-second delay from what you're seeing. So if you tell me to stop, I might be a little further past that.
There it is. I see it on the live now. It's the one where I'm holding up the big sheet of paper.
Okay, hang on. Let me.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I got it. I'm here.
Yeah. So this one led to the open minds. Do you see my very first collection? And that led to the cities. Not the image of the women sitting in front of the mural. The other one.
I got it. I'm back up. I'm
yeah.
back on. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. The delay is a little confusing. Sorry.
Yeah. I meant to tell you that. Yeah. Slip my. Go ahead.
It's okay. You got it. So this piece it flowed out so naturally, and I wasn't even trying to draw the city. When I made it, I was like, this feels like summer in New York City to me. It feels like an abstract version of that. And then you see the little fire hydrant and the skateboard and the fountain, and it kind of snaps all this abstract mark making into scale when you notice the little icons that I've hidden throughout the composition. And there was something so powerful and intriguing about this that I've built almost my entire ecosystem around this idea. Open lines, open minds. And the idea is that in your mind, you have all these memories and experiences, and my work is just, it helps you connect the dots. It helps you bring up those memories in a very unexpected way through minimalism. And the fact that you can even do that with the human mind, have all these memories just from looking at a bunch of colorful marks. It's this principle called Gestalt that I learned about in design school, where the sum of the parts is greater than if you just add them all together. Like something new emerges when you put things together in the right way. So I wanted to stop you on that piece. It was a very foundational one. And shout out to Rich, who owns that physical piece, Rich Thorne. And it was one of my early NFTs as well when I animated it.
What in the teams, right? Very important to have a team, especially when.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on? So do you, in your, you obviously have the studio, have the gallery shows, you have the merchandise, you got to get shipments out, packages out, orders out. You did a drop. We were talking and said, oh my God, I just picked up that, maybe not on X, maybe text me because a lot of new collectors, messages, media, social media. Are you the type to are you the guy that handles it all? Do you handle it all yourself? The collabs, reaching out to people, answering messages. Or do you believe in a team? Like, what are your thoughts on? Or are you the type of guy that I'll get AI, I'll implement it and, get it to organize everything and I'll handle the messages coming down and it's like, what are your thoughts on as far as especially when it comes to collabs? Are you the guy, you go out and get them yourself? And you mentioned that you talk to people, see who you resonate with, see if you guys line up, if it's something that you want to do, or is there someone else that you have in the middle that is handling your stuff? Some artists love to be the one that hey, you call. I have a friend, Miguel. You dial that number anywhere on any place, it goes right to his phone. You're talking to Miguel, the artist. Other people, talk to my agent or talk to my manager. I'm busy creating. What are your thoughts? Is it better? Do you feel that for you, is it better to be more involved in the process, or do you step back and just create? Some people love to just create. Go ahead, take it from there, man.
So when I had that big Tops project and that big influx of thousands of new collectors, I needed help to manage the communications with all of them and to launch my shop in a way where I could sign the cards and sell limited editions of the cards. And that's what you're seeing as you scroll through the Instagram, is some of the early limited editions and signed baseball cards that I was selling. And so I hired people. I hired a full-time manager at the time, and a few other people to help me in the studio with the shipping and some of the communication with clients. But as that project winded down, I felt like I could actually manage things more on my own. They did renew for another year. We did a whole separate project where I was able to pick my own players. I even did a whole separate series about baseball stadiums, which was super fun, and none of the other artists got to do that series. So it's really special. But after the baseball cards were winding down, I decided to scale my team down. And also people on my team were naturally looking for new opportunities anyway, to grow. And I didn't have that growth available at my company at the time. So I went back down to being a solo artist for a few years. And then, well, actually, it was only maybe a year where I didn't have an assistant. And now I have a part-time assistant named Noah. He's an artist who's also a digital collage expert in his own right. He's minted his work on Super Rare and everything. And so shout out to Noah, who's been with me for 3 years, helping me part-time here. He ships all the orders. He keeps me, he's in my eyes and ears for the communication when I miss things. So every email that goes to hello@Efdot Studio goes to him and me. And then I also have new people that have joined the team just for the GLiFS launch. And we may keep working together into the future, but it's for now we're trying to grow more sustainably and keep the overhead low at the studio and kind of get people in on the projects where if the projects do well, that directly impacts the team where they get a percentage of the sales. So it's putting our incentives in the right place, using this technology in a way where everybody gets paid instantly for their work when the sale comes in. It's very powerful.
Very.
We did this with, I mean, I don't think the world has understood the power of these splitter contracts.
This should be the selling point of the whole entire system. You know, you paid, boom, 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 in your wallet. Everybody's happy, no middlemen. Nobody's got their hand in your pocket. All of the percentages are agreed on the contracts beforehand. Everybody knows what they're getting. And nobody knows this exists because everybody thinks, oh, that's a scam. You know, but there is a different world to do business. And on top of it, you send money across the world in an instant. Boom, you got a wallet. Yeah, okay, we'll code the contract. Anybody that you would. So I'm going to say really quickly that I'm going to equate your philosophy when it comes to bringing on people or a team like the film industry. Whenever they make a film, it's not under Warner Brothers. It's underneath an LLC of the name of that film. That's the money gets put into an account. So if there's any type of lawsuit, you can only sue that. Let's Indiana Jones LLC, right? So I'm going to imagine that your projects, but they bring in the team, right? They have the money. This is the project. This is the team. You have a new, we're going to get this cinematographer. We're going to get this audio guy. We're going to get this set designer. But the project's finished. Everybody goes on to their next, does that?
It's like the film industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work a lot with this guy, Will Holden, a good friend of mine here in Brooklyn. We do the Canal Street show together. Okay. He's a filmmaker and he edits reality TV for a living. And so he's between jobs a lot of the time. That's when we do the video work together. When we do the show is when he is off season. It's like the permalance thing that I was talking about earlier. They have you on for a season. They might have you back. They might not, but that's the job for a lot of us creative people. I think I forgot the question, but hopefully that made I wanted to shout out my other team members actually that recently joined. Okay. Jonathan Colon is handling a lot of things on his end. He's handling the private sales for the one-of-one original GLiFS that are on private sale right now. We've created a cool little inquiry experience where you can check off your favorites and just submit an inquiry. And then if they're available, we follow up. So thank you, Jonathan, for helping through all those DMs with collectors. I wasn't able to manage all those myself. And then Joanna is helping me with multiplying my efforts with marketing. She used to work for Schiller. Great company and person. Joanna's so funny as well. So more fun content in the works. Transient Labs, they're doing all the tech for the shows and for the website. I lied, actually. The tech was also done by Loom Studios. Dotan, I consider him a part of my team too. We've done the Canal Street show for years and I've done multiple solo shows now at Loom Studios. So to get all those people align our incentives with those splitter contracts, getting the art into their hands so that as the project grows, the art grows with them. It's amazing what we can do. Like, art is energy, just in the same way that money is energy. And you can play with these things with the blockchain. You can transfer that energy around the world. It's so fun.
Couple questions as I'm flicking through here, Eric, and then I think we want to focus definitely on this GLiFS launch and start introducing people to everything that's going on. Question that I'm very curious about. You seem to have a very good grasp when it comes to editions. You seem to know exactly how many editions. I just feel like you have a good feeling about that, right? And maybe a little insight on, your thoughts on editions, especially when you present editions. When is it a time to, low editions, high editions? What's your thoughts on all of that?
I'm glad it looks like I have it together. I would say I definitely stumbled through the space my first few years, and I tried to leave these breadcrumbs behind in the form of editions and one-of-ones that people can go back and see how the GLiFS and how the cities came to life. I've always had these ideas since I came into the space, but I needed a few years to really bring them to life. And of course, I get distracted. I want to make a series about skateboarding. I want to make the baseball cards, companion cards. Really, they were called blob cards. But in the end, I tried to not outpace my supply, or not outpace the supply in comparison to the demand. You want to have more demand than supply out there, ideally, so that way you don't have to sit on the supply and keep marketing the same artwork over and over again, which that happened for me. I didn't sell out every drop. One of my Nifty Gateway drops never sold out. One of my editions took a year to sell out. Just recently it sold out. And I'm okay with that, because it does always find the right hands in the end. You have to be patient. And even though the NFT space has this toxic mentality of like, if it's not sold out, then it's not worth looking into, a lot of these trader investor people look at it from a purely monetary lens, and that's unfortunate. I don't think supply and price are the most important part of the art by any means, but an artist does have to think about these things if you're coming into the space. If you want to build here long term, you can't be the only one that gets paid handsomely. You have to leave some value on the table for the collectors to grow with you. And I learned that through my mistakes, mainly my trials and errors of overpricing, underpricing, oversupply, undersupply. I don't know. There's no perfect way to do it. You just have to feel in your gut whether a piece wants to be a connection with one person, or if you want it to deeply connect with a larger group of people, smaller group of people. I like the small editions because you can have conversations with every one of the owners as the drop is happening, and even a little group chat around that specific edition can form very organically. So I love those. And I would say my average was about 50 editions. I did several editions that were 50. I did a bunch that were lower. I did a few that were higher, but that felt like a good number for me as I grew, that it wouldn't sell out in an instant. So it was a better collector experience. And that's how I did it for my murals. I would animate my murals, made a whole collection of those animated murals in 2024. They were all editions of 50. And so I've kind of been keeping that going with some of my murals. And my biggest edition was over 200 pieces. That was a Schiller collaboration. I'd say my smallest edition, besides the one-of-ones, was 11. So it really ranges. I think that when the idea is really powerful and you want to keep building on the idea, like I knew that when I was building cities, if I was going to make any cities editions or editions that look like the cities, they got to be very limited. Because if it was too available, people wouldn't value the idea as much. If I made an edition of 1,000 that looks like a city, they can get that instead of buying the real cities. Why would I do that, right? So all my cities editions and my GLiFS inspired editions stayed very small as I was building. You got to think about. I tried to balance the long-term vision with the short-term survival, I guess, and thriving. Not easy.
I'm gonna, it's. I always had this saying back when I was a graphic designer and doing branding. I would always pay attention to a company's presentation. I always felt that a company's presentation was that was the best way to determine the success of the future success of a company. And when I speak about presentation, I would always look at their letterhead. I would always look at their logo, their card, whether it was what's the word I'm looking for? Embossed. Whether there was foil embossment on it, or a stamp, or maybe it was raised up out of the paper. You see a lot of artists, they get their stamp made. You have your stamp where it's, I was looking at your print on the wall on Wednesday night, and I saw the raised EF, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I was always huge about all the little, the small details. If a company pays attention to the very small details, if an artist pays attention to the way they sign, the way their certificate of COA, the way their COA looks, the way they present their physicals, their business cards, the pins, right, the merchandise, everything. It all says something about the longevity of how long the artist is going to be in the game, because they're reinvesting into themselves. The company reinvests into themselves. They're not chinsing on the letterhead. I save company letterhead because I like the way it was designed. I've always felt if somebody gave me a business card, all I need on it is the information. And then I could just throw out the business card once I log that information.
Right.
However, I do have a tendency of having a stack of well-designed cards always at my right hand, because when I'm designing something, I'm creating something, I will look at certain things for inspiration. I always felt Marlboro. It was a terrible company, but their marketing was phenomenal, especially in the days of ripping it off the packs and all of their promotional materials. It was all done with clear and slides and envelopes. I think one of their most popular ads ever produced was, you remember those, well, they still do it, the Absolute ads, Absolute Citron, Absolute, right?
Those were cool. Yeah.
They had one called Absolute Winterland, and they on top of the page was this was a clear plastic, and in the clear plastic there was water and snow, right? And it sat over the ad, and so you turn the magazine upside down and then turn it back, and it would snow over the Absolute bottle, and people went nuts for this. They ripped it out of magazines. It's crazy. And right next to me, I always have this folder of inspirational things. The point I'm trying to make is you pay attention to every little detail, from the stamp, I imagine, to the COA, and just seeing your presentation, the T-shirts, the hats, the pins, everything that, how important is that, in your opinion, when it comes to developing you put a lot of attention to it.
Yeah.
I notice it. I think it's great. I don't know if everybody does.
Thank you.
But to me, it's one of the most, it's like dotting your I's and crossing your T's, but you don't see many people put focus on that. Thoughts on that?
Well, in addition to the graphic design classes, where one of them was just all about presentation, it was called Professional Practice, was the name of the class.
Okay.
Senior year, you're learning how to put together a portfolio. And the professor that I had was extremely nitpicky. And so they made me into a person that's extremely nitpicky. I was the one during the critiques being like, hey, I saw that. Was that intentional? Are you going to fix that? Like I was the asshole, like giving the critical feedback. But what it did was it really sharpened my eye.
Right.
And it made me more honest with my clients, and it ends up for a better finished result. And that's the whole point, is to make whoever's viewing this thing or interacting with this thing have a great results. As a designer, at least that's the goal. As an artist, I'm trying to fulfill something more within myself. But if I can marry the two, then it hits both of the desires to like make something impactful in the world, but also self-actualize and self-excavate a little bit. And the presentation of what I do now is just an evolution of that. I do think it's an underrated and underutilized thing is people just post their art. They don't post different versions of how it could be presented, whether it's printed or mocked up or animating, or you show the sketch alongside the finished work. And then the merchandise, if I'm going to spend time on the details, like show the close-ups, show the work that went into the details, show the embroidery, show the texture. It changes everything for the experience. And I wish people could feel that more through the screen. But for now, I get to use my photography skills and my video skills that are sitting dormant for a while as I was doing the lettering. And now to build the brand that is Efdot Studio, I get to push into some of those passions again and use all the video and photo love and experience that I have from the skateboarding days and use it to fuel my art practice in a fun way. So, and then the last thing I'll say is, like, when you go on Instagram and you look at the reels that are getting millions of views that are by artists, not that like that's not my goal to get millions of views. If I wanted to get millions of views and that was my main goal, I would be approaching this differently. But it's something to notice and keep mindful of, that those artists aren't necessarily making the best paintings. They're just presenting them in a very novel way. Right. And whether it's using the brushes,
marketing is
yeah. It's about subverting the viewer's expectations, showing them something familiar, but then surprising them in a way that gives them a little bit of dopamine and makes them want to keep watching. And honestly, this is not my passion. It's just a fact of life that we have to consider when we have such little time windows of people's attention every day. But it's something that's helped me.
Let's talk about GLiFS, huh?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to bring that in. I have your gram. I don't know. I don't know if you want me to bring up a personal site. I don't know if you want me to just keep clicking along as you speak about GLiFS.
I would love to pull up the GLiFS.art website if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to imagine that is that in your...
Yeah, it's in my bio.
Okay, excellent. Let's bring that up.
Should be. You are very, very far back in time.
I got it. You're up. Okay, so we have GLiFS up right now, and GLiFS are sold out. Why don't you tell us a little bit about? We've been sitting here talking about it and touching on it the whole show. Go ahead, let it rip, man.
So this is our website that we built with Transient Labs. The website is a part of the artwork. I've never really done that before, where the artwork contains a system of interaction. My last project was cities on art blocks, which was my first creative system that was meant for the digital space. And it was more of a random mint. And with this project, I wanted to make it truly participatory and interactive. I was inspired by artists like Sam Spratt and Dave Krugman, who bring in the community to create with them and to leave the final brushstrokes on the work. So what you're scrolling through here, I know there's a bit of a delay, but you're scrolling through the original drawings that I can see here that led to the co-creation experiment that we've been doing the last 10 or so days on our website. And basically on OpenSea, the way it worked was people bought a blank grid, a random blank grid. It either had 4, 9, 16, or a different number of spaces. And in those spaces, people would drag and drop these characters and these symbols to make their custom animation. This is the originals that you're scrolling through, which are currently available for inquiry. I guess you switched over to the feed now.
Yeah.
So now you're on the feed and you can see the co-created grids. So all around the world, every time someone clicks save, one of these gets updated on OpenSea as well as this page. So it's this massive collective tablet, public artwork that we're making in real time, and people can keep saving and changing the colors, changing the symbols. But one cool thing about this is as soon as you save it, nobody else can actually take that composition. So you're calling dibs on that arrangement in all color palettes when you click save, as long as it hasn't been taken before. And now if you click save again and you change some things, you're letting that go. It's kind of like musical chairs. Towards the end of the co-creation period, which ends on Sunday, people are gonna have to make their final decision and lock it in. And if it's not customized, if it's still the pre-reveal image, it's gonna fill with random symbols and random colors. So if you have one of these pieces, already, or if you want to go get one on OpenSea, it's very close to the mint price right now on secondary. I'm not sure how long that will be, but people can really get in on this for a couple more days and help shape the future of this visual language.
For those that are not the most versed with how this, maybe they don't even on the. Maybe
I can break it down.
Yeah. I think.
Okay, so the way it works, there's two ways to get a piece. You either go on OpenSea and you scoop one on secondary. Of course, you can inquire about one of the one-of-one symbols if you're wanting to collect one of the root pieces, and those are getting reserved right now. I'm minting them later today and distributing to the people who have reserved. That's 10 times smaller of a collection, therefore the price is 10 times more than the original mint. And I wanted to keep these as separate collections because the original 300 characters are fully on chain. They are only from my hand, whereas the 3,000 pieces are the co-creation. It's from my hand and then your hand where you move them around and change the colors. So it felt important to keep them separate and keep the originals preserved fully on chain, which I couldn't do with this OpenSea contract. So the way to get into this is to collect it on OpenSea, or if you don't have a wallet yet and just buying crypto is too difficult, just send me a message and I can accept payment in different ways and send you a GLiFS to a wallet. It takes 2 minutes to make a wallet with the Rainbow app or the browser extension. If you're on the computer, rainbow.me is the best wallet that I found recently, or MetaMask. If you have MetaMask, that's good too. Having some crypto enables you to buy it on secondary, but if you can't do that, like I said, send me a message. I'll hook you up. And then once you have it in your wallet, you should see it on your OpenSea profile. And then you go to our GLiFS.art website, click on My GLiFS, connect your wallet, and your blank grid should show up right there. Then you have the next 2 days to customize it with the 300 symbols and the 30 color palettes. Click save, and you're done. That's it. So it's a long-winded answer, but it is really only a couple steps. I just want it to be easy for people who are not crypto people to get into this, because the art is meant to live outside of Web3. It's very kid-friendly as well. I want people to experience that. And that's why the website is you can actually make these grids in a preview format, even if you don't have a token. You can go to the homepage, play around with it, get a little taste of what the co-creation experience looks like. If you want to navigate to the homepage again, you can show people what that looks like. So that'll give you a taste. But really, to get all these color palettes and all these symbols, you have to have a token. And after the co-creation period is over, all the art will be locked forever. We'll still have some creation tools up online, but they won't be the official 3,000.
I got a lot of questions, and I got to figure out what the right ones are here.
I'm good. I got like 20 more minutes.
Okay. All right. We spoke briefly about this on text. You had me cracking up last night because I'm sitting here and you're like, yeah, man, just throw it in the Claude. Claude will do everything for it. And I'm like, he's right. Like, why am I not throwing it in? Why am I sitting in front of Photoshop trying to figure out how to build the GIF now, right? And so we turned it, and I'm like, so, he's pushing me. Let me see if I can figure this out, right? So now I'm in Claude, and I'm putting this whole thing together. And I wrote you back,
took me a few tries.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this. AI has now become the best assistant I have ever personally had.
Yeah.
I think so many people are in the beginning were so against it, and I get what the general upset was. It's, you saw a lot of people creating with it. It's, they're not really doing their art, and they don't really know how to paint, and they can't just look. The computer's doing it for them, and I didn't get in that part of it. I understood the turmoil for artists. But that's not something to get hung up on, right? Not for me anyway. But not to use the implementation of what we have right now to expedite, speed up, learn, create stuff that we never had any ability to do or would never know how to do. Or, is there something that you know, if you're familiar, if you're in graphic design, if you're in film, you probably have some general knowledge of Photoshop, of Illustrator, of After Effects, maybe enough to tinker around. Now YouTube, you go on, you watch 1,000 different, tutorials. TikTok, you can learn in 5 seconds or less. Do this, click this, right? And so, but AI, right? You now can implement this amazing technology into almost your art on steroids, or your marketing on steroids, or creating on steroids. I've always believed implementing it correctly, meaning you still are the creator, but then you implement this AI to bring your art to the next level where you might have never been able to bring it to. I think you'd have to be silly not to be implementing it into your art. And just listening to you talk about how you created, and it's like, oh man, I did all this with Claude, and I animated these things for the show. And I do want to bring up a couple videos of what the show at Loom looked like, because it was great. It was great. The show was great when you walk in. The way everything was moving around. I love projection. Like, I love it. It has to be done right. I believe you did it right. You did it better than expected. And just the way they were all floating around on the walls, and you felt like you were in a room full of all these glyphs and collaborations. But ultimately, it was your touch and your creation. Any thoughts on maybe you want to punch in there, or speak to some artists and let them know how it could really aid and help? I figured you might be the right guy to kind of share that thought.
Yeah, well, I want to be clear about the animations first, because when I say that Claude helped me with the animations, Claude did not do the animations that are like the individual symbols.
Not the individual, right?
Yeah,
right.
The individual symbols were animated by hand in Procreate, and that was a really important part of the process, because you get this really human, hand-drawn feeling thing that is a modular unit in a larger system. And that's really good for working with AI, because you can just give it the whole folder of images and animations and say, help me make different collages with these. Help me make different color palettes with these. Help me speed them up, slow them down. Just try endless variations and combinations. And I actually used Claude before I worked with Transient Labs to build a prototype of the website, which I simply would not have been able to do 2 years ago. The tools were not good enough for vibe coding yet. And so I was able, over the last year, to build a prototype myself of this drag and drop interface that we have on our website. And for the show at Loom, I basically had a vision of different scenes in the main immersive projector space that had, one, the co-created pieces. I felt like that was super important to get the actual compositions that people are making right now around the world, have them credited. So it says co-created by Marc right below it. And I didn't even have to put my name there, because people already know that it's co-created with me. And that felt really special to have other people's names right there. I mean, I've done this with my collectors before, where I honor the patrons on the wall, but this is so different. And so that was the first scene that I had to refine. And I used mainly the dark color palettes, where you have this dark background that kind of disappears into the wall, and then the colors in the artwork can really pop off of that, because a white background on a projector is kind of harsh on the eyes. So I mainly used the co-created pieces that were dark. The other scenes that you saw were a combination of like puzzles, spirals, circular motions, rotating the glyphs so that it felt like they're almost like on a Rubik's Cube. There was one that I really love that I call frequencies, where I take the glyphs and they kind of create these light trails that go into the distance. And as the glyph bounces around, almost like the DVD logo on the screensaver, like bouncing around the corners.
I think
never quite hitting the corner.
I think I got it up. I think I got a video of it up.
There's a reel that I posted on Instagram as well as on X that has a couple seconds of that. Also, my GM post this morning, where I'm with my dog and my partner, that has the light trails in the background. Okay. There it is. Yeah. So that I think was my favorite, because it was a whole new way to experience the glyphs. Instead of having the frames all in the same position, they offset a little bit, like by 30 pixels or so. And yeah, it just creates that frequency, that waveform where it's almost like a sound wave. And I want to make more art with that effect in the future. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it just yet, but that felt like one of the more immersive and brand new ways of experiencing this art. And I'm so glad that it resonated with you. And then also I wanted to say, like, we had a couple different ways where you could actually create live in the space. We had this MIDI board. If you don't know what a MIDI board is, it's something that DJs use to tweak the settings on different instruments and synthesizers. It had a little MIDI board that had 9 different knobs on it. And I think you can see that if you go to the post that I made more recently, where I shared different grids made by the community. And it's the second post in that thread.
Was that on X or?
Yeah. It was from the GLiFS account, but I think I retweeted it. If you go to the top, and yeah, first there's a glyph made by Lynette, and then the second tweet below that was like Dave Krugman using he calls it the Glyphnator, which is like this little MIDI board that you twist different knobs, and on the wall, the symbols change. And the MIDI board had 42 different settings, so we put 42 different symbols, one color palette, and we had this in Lisbon as well last week when we were there for the launch. OpenSea really hooked it up and gave us a great space to use. And the Glyphnator, the little MIDI board, had its debut inside of a shipping container. And we were able to make prints for people right on the spot. So as soon as they found their piece that they wanted, they just click a couple buttons and then a little postcard pops out. It was so cool. And then downstairs at Loom Studios was a whole different experience where we had screens on the wall, screens on the ceiling, and then a co-creation experience on my laptop where I was just customizing right within my wallet and sending the tokens out right there to people. So it was meant to like the ground floor brings you into this immersive world, shows you the roots, the physical art, the prints, the drawings, and the projections. And then in the back, we had the merch. And then when you go downstairs, that's where the bar was, where it was kind of a speakeasy. Everybody seemed to want to stay down there. Maybe it was the alcohol, I'm not sure. But that room was
They like hanging out by the bar.
And I can say that in Lisbon, we customized over 50 pieces, made 50 different prints. I signed all of them. And then in New York, I believe we got around 30 customized tokens that night. So it was great to have 80 pieces made live with people. I just simply wouldn't be able to do that without this process. Yeah.
So, okay.
And Transient Labs are the geniuses behind the
I was going to
interactive
say definitely.
tool.
Yeah, you want to definitely give. I want to make it clear to everyone on the show that the original artwork was hand created, right? All of the original and the animations. And when I say when AI comes into the picture, I want to be clear that I feel the artwork should always be created. What's the word I'm looking for?
Carefully, with love and care.
That's right.
If you just put a prompt in and then something comes out and you're like, I like this. This is my art. It's like you really didn't put that much of yourself into it.
Right. Yeah. And the fact that you've implemented the AI in a way to expand market a presentation, that's where I believe AI becomes, right? Being able to, give me the top 100 galleries in the world where I feel that this artwork really would resonate with those galleries. Help me, all the little things that you could do, help me create this presentation for the projection system. This is where I think AI brings you, up a notch, but the artwork I feel like always should be that's you. That comes from your soul. I don't think that's where AI belongs. I believe the artwork should be custom, and I feel everything as far as I call it the manufacturing line from beginning of creation to the launch of the project to the sale to the promotion to the marketing to there's a manufacturing line there whenever an artist is dropping or releasing something new, and every time you put the right pieces in the place and that line will run perfectly, and you did that. I always had
one thing that I want to share based on what you just said there. Do you guys know Jake Fried, the artist who creates these animations by covering over what he's drawing and then scanning it and altering it and scanning it and he has this discipline of creating these like 8-month to 12-month long animations where he just draws a few frames every day and destroys the artwork in the process. He had an interview that really touched me last year where he said, every day when I wake up, I have to remind myself that I don't have to do anything. I don't have to mint anything. I don't have to make hype around my art. I don't have to show up in any certain way. My job as an artist is to tune in to use my antenna in a way. He didn't use those words, but what I took away from it was, don't put so much pressure on yourself to mint. Wait until you have the ideas and the system down the way that you want it. This project took several years until I was ready to even announce it publicly in a way that said it's coming really soon. I could have announced it years ago. It would have taken me years to finish. And that's one of the mistakes I made with some projects. It's like you start talking about them too early before it's even, you're giving yourself the
Where
benefit.
is it? Where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it? Is
Well,
hey, what about that project?
Motivation, because you're giving yourself dopamine for nothing, for like only part of the work being done or nothing being done. It's like when you go out to a bar and your friends are like, yeah, I really want to get a 6-pack. I should go to the gym. I mean, I'm not talking over here. I have to do some more exercise myself, but like talking about it just gives you satisfaction that you don't really deserve. So I stopped doing that at a certain point, maybe 2024, stopped talking about the projects until I was like done, ready. And then I couldn't work on them full time. I had to support myself through the commercial work and through other things, but I kept cracking away at it. And I listened to that advice from Jake Fried. Don't put pressure on yourself to mint. Minting art on the blockchain is permanent. You shouldn't do it just for the payday or to support your bills. Like, find other ways to support your bills. It's going to make for better art if you can avoid just doing things for like quickly planned things. Long-term mindset is what I took away from that.
I'm gonna jump in on that as well. Hito, people are dropping some comments. Hito says he loves this. My personal philosophy with art: mint when the story and the moment is meant to be. What's up, guys? I see all you guys out there. Mari, Lord, Chiroa, Hito. Good morning. What's up, guys? I'm happy that you guys are back. We are, having a show with Efdot. I always had trouble with. I didn't know if it was Edot or Efdot because it was the E. I'm glad you gave us a breakdown of how you came up with your name and your tag. I lost my train of thought. I had a question for you. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to say. Pertaining to what you were saying before. A lot of times I think that when we speak about something, we have the idea, we see the idea, we know we want to create it, and I always do this to myself. I'm going to release a collection 6 months from now. It's going to be my reef prints. And 6 months don't work out the way you want. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. Maybe you're not prepared. You reach that 7th month, and the next thing you know, you have 100 people saying to you, what happened to the collection? Is it coming out? This guy don't finish it on time. What's going on? And you did that to yourself because you spoke before it was even ready to be presented, And then I started to learn that you should probably speak about something when it's at the point where you're ready to present. Because not only do you speak more confidently about it, but then there isn't any holdups. And it doesn't look bad on you. Because people really do get glued to something when you announce it or you talk about it and it hasn't even been presented yet. And yeah, you're right. It feels great talking about it because it's in your head, you see it, but yet it's not in existence. And perhaps it does take you maybe another 6 months or another year to finish it, or something comes up in your life, or, it's just life, right? Life happens and you don't get or maybe you see a different way of doing it and you start redesigning it and it tacks on another month, another 2 months. And so you could really put yourself in a position talking about something and then not executing on what you're talking about. And then it becomes a situation where you're not a man of your word, or what he says is going to happen never happens. I've always said to people, I've never not done anything I said I was going to do. It never happened on the time frame that I said it was going to happen on. It happened, but it might happen a month later, 6 months later, a year later, but it'll happen. But it's just life happens, and so you can really dig yourself a hole by running your mouth a little too much. So I'm actually very happy that you brought that up. I have your website up. I have your merchandise up.
Cool.
Tell me, Eric, what's the best way for people to find you, follow you? What website should they go to? Give me the links here, and I can bring them up on screen while we're here.
Well, GLiFS.art is our newest website that has all kinds of new experiments that never existed before. And it also has links to my other websites. So you can find our shop through GLiFS.art, GLiFS. And my other website that has my portfolio is Efdotstudio.com. Those are my main two websites, and my socials are Efdot or Efdotstudio everywhere. I don't have the Efdot handle on Twitter yet. So if you're going to tag me on Twitter, tag my Efdotstudio account or GLiFS by Efdot. I'm answering DMs and replying as much as I can across both of those. But I love that you're pulling up the shop here because this is all brand new. We just launched this on Wednesday with the show opening. I can't see if you're still on the site.
I'm going to bring up the shop again.
Yeah, there's some fun things that we added here. We're going to do more prints in the future, where you can get the co-created pieces as a one-of-one signed print. But we want to let people finish creating those first. That's why you don't see those here in the shop. But what you do see is an open edition poster print up on the top left, and then t-shirts, enamel pins, socks. The socks are really fun. I've been working with this company called Apothecary for a few years now. These are my homies from college, actually. They're sneakerheads. They started a sock company for all their sneakerhead fans. So I've created a bunch of sock collections with them over the years, and the GLiFS socks just felt so right. And what else? I have a Discord that's linked in the GLiFS.art footer of that website. The Discord is really fun because we're giving away things pretty frequently. Like, we have points just for engaging in the Discord and for playing our little games in there. Shout out to Phyrexis, who's been making our games in the Discord really fun, where you can kind of play with the GLiFS, compare them, contrast them, vote on them. And that gives you points that will get you free stuff in our shop. And then holding the GLiFS in your wallet, also you're eligible for more like short-term discounts. So I share discount codes in my Discord and in our collector group chat. So it's all kind of tied in together. I wish everything could be super affordable, but unfortunately the physical does have a high production cost. Like, these embroidered t-shirts are not cheap to make. So I know they're not for everyone, but I hope that you guys appreciate the high-end production. I could have went low cost, but I decided to do everything really, really nice paper and nice materials. And that way it can stand the test of time. It's not going to end up in the landfill in a year.
Quality over quantity.
Oh, I didn't mention one. There's the letterpress print in my shop that I made 6 years ago. So 6 years ago, that the piece that is sitting behind me in the videos, and it's the 30 symbols. The
What
30
was
original
that? Was that the piece when you first walked in to the show?
Yeah.
That was the imprinted piece, right?
Yeah, it's letterpress. So it's like the old school printing technology that they used to print books with is still being used, and it embosses into the paper almost like a screen print with each color, but it gives it more of a sculptural quality because depending on the paper you use and the amount of pressure you use and the lighting, it can really highlight the fact that it's indented and embossed. And I think that's just so fun. It ties back to my grandmother, who she worked with a Braille machine to translate text into Braille and help people accessibly read these different texts. And so I'm doing the same sort of sculptural paper quality that she used with letterpress printers. And there's a few of those editions still left from 2020 that I've signed and numbered up to 30 when I was 30 years old. And they're just sitting in my shop waiting to find their homes. And I haven't brought them out in 5 years. So it's pretty cool.
Hey, also, I know this is what inspired the show. It was an important message about it ends. the 21st, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't want to forget that message. Why don't you let everybody know what happens? Yeah.
So right now, everybody around the world who has a token is able to get access to the full experience on our website. If you're on the homepage, you're just getting a preview. You're getting one color palette. The GLiFS logo is right in the middle of the artwork. But if you have a token, you can log in, get access to all the color palettes, get rid of the logo, and create a custom artwork. That is open only for about 2 more days. Then everything will lock, and the people who didn't customize their work will get random symbols, random colors, and we're gonna get to look at a final reveal of the collection. Super fun. It's like a slow reveal, not typical for these digital art projects. Usually it's like you press one transaction and all the artwork reveals. For the GLiFS collection, it's been a slow roll these last 10 to 12 days of everybody slowly creating and iterating with me. I wanted to bring people into my mind, into my process and my studio to create in the way that I do. I don't often start with the title. I start with abstract marks and color palettes. And then over time, I start to think about what was I actually feeling and thinking at that moment? And then the titles come to me and the messages come to me. So I hope that you all feel it and enjoy the process. I wish we could keep it going forever, but then no one would really participate. So we're trying to give some urgency around this deadline of this Sunday is the last day to collect and participate in this way. Not saying it'll be closed forever. We're thinking about maybe having a special holiday in the future where it opens up again, but let's be honest, 90% of people won't see the announcement. So this is the time to create and lock it in so that you can tell your story and share a piece of yourself through my language.
You know, and I have to apologize. I don't know if you remember that. I was like, I think the projectors and the blacks are, but now I'm looking at the actual pieces, and it's navy blue and purple in the background, and I didn't.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't understand that when it happened. So that was a mistake on my part. They looked exactly like they should have. So yeah, I didn't realize until now, and I'm looking at people's creations and the colors of the backgrounds. Okay, give me 2 seconds just to do this real quick. I don't need you to do this. I just need to voice. All right, guys. So this is Eric's IG. This is his Instagram. This is where you can find him on.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
I want to give away a piece to somebody who's watching right now.
Okay.
I see we have over 200 views on X alone, so this should be fun. Let's give away 2 pieces.
How do we do that?
If you quote tweet this live stream and let us know your favorite part, or share, you got to share some art, not just the text. Go onto our website, make a little preview grid, or if you have a token, make an official composition. Share that as a quote tweet of this live stream from Marc's page so that people can get all the context. And I'll go through later today and I'll choose 2 winners. Right. And if you're not watching on X, do it on whatever platform you're on, ideally Instagram. That's where the art people are at. I don't think you can do this on YouTube, right? But tag Efdot if you're on Instagram, and tag Efdot Studio on Twitter, and GLiFS by Efdot on Twitter. All right. And I'll see those and I'll go through, and I got 1 2x2 grid and 1 3x3 grid up for grabs.
All right. You guys heard him. Quote tweet or repost on IG and for a chance to win a work of art from Eric. All right, let me. This is his IG. Guys, go over there and follow him. You could also find the other account, which I believe is.
Bonus points if you put the GLiFS.art in your post. Because we want to get people to actually experience this, not just see it on the timeline. So if you tag me and you put GLiFS.art, I'm going to be rewarding those people who actually help spread this co-creation process to the world.
Guys, this is GLiFS.art. This is the site that we've been going through. This is the new project of Eric that he has just launched. Also, we have the OpenSea. This is the OpenSea page where the collection can be found. We'll bring also up his X. This is GLiFS on X, GLiFS by Efdot, and also his personal page, which is right here, which you can easily follow him, Efdot Studio. So you can follow Efdot at all of these places. Contact him. You can contact Eric, and then also websites. And then we have ef.studio.com as well, with all of the we have.
Yes, and just to be clear, it's DOT. It's not an actual dot. Everyone gets that wrong. So
yeah, DOT
EF,
guys.
DOT.
Yeah. Good call. Spell it out, guys. EFDOT. Whenever you're spelling it out and putting it in. So that is his X. We covered his websites. Any other links that I missed that we might want to show them, or we got the important ones?
No, it's all on the GLiFS website. The Discord's in the footer, and so is the social media.
Okay.
Give Transient Labs a follow if you like the experience. They're the masterminds behind the interaction and the details, the blockchain stuff, the contracts. They're working with artists all the time. So if you have a big idea and you're an artist watching this, if you want an introduction to Transient Labs, send me a message. They're looking for artists to work with. So
I will absolutely co-sign that. I've never dropped anything in the digital world yet, and I have my first collection. I think it's yeah, and I chose. I'm Transient Labs fan all the way. And those are the guys I chose to drop my first collection on. I had a chance. I don't think he's there anymore, but Daniel.
Yeah. Great dude.
I just, the response time, and reaching out and communicating with the artists. To me, that says everything I need to know, because I wrote every single platform. And Transient was the one that, popped right back and what's up. And they got me a meeting and Daniel for an hour, and he told me how to drop it. And so I'm preparing my first drop now, but I want to shout out to Transient for being the one of at least 10 to 15 sites that reached out immediately right back. And to me, those are the guys I'm going with. I always hear, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Chaz Gold, but a close friend of mine always talked about Transient in the beginning and, caught my attention. But then I said, where am I going to do my first drop? And I said, I'm going to do my first drop with the people who actually respond and I feel good with, and I know they're there, and I'm not, hello, and Transient really, and that says everything about them. So, and I love the fact that you paired up with them. That was a surprise to me. I didn't know about that. So it was nice to see, and actually got to meet Marco at your event. And so I was happy to see that union, because I was like, man, this guy, you make all the right moves, Eric. You make all the right moves. So.
Well, I've made some mistakes, and that helps me make the right moves now. And also, I learned from the best. I would not be where I'm at without the brilliant people of this space that we find ourselves in. It's still very young, and I think that in time, people will understand the genius of people like Transient Labs, and they're going to be in the legends of this time. I think for the just art world in general, like they're on the bleeding edge of art and technology, and I'm just so grateful that I met them through the All Ships family, and that they're here in New York too. Like they come over to my studio and we chat. Yeah. So that's part of why I stay here, is the access to the talent here.
Yeah, very good group over there. I do want to say that as well. All right, I'm going to switch the screens back. We're going to get a few words of inspiration from you, and then we're going to close out. We covered everything. I'm pretty sure we're good with everything. We got all the links. We got everything up. So we're at that point where we're going to close out. Let me switch back the camera so we could close this show properly. All right, Eric. We have 2 more questions for you before we say goodbye to everybody. I don't know if there's anything that you want to let everybody know that we didn't talk about, or a question that I missed or anything. But to close up, usually... Yeah. I don't know if there's anything you want to let people know or update them.
Yeah, so one thing I didn't touch on was the physical art aspect of the one-of-ones. Some people, they see the animations and they love them, but they don't understand like the value of that, or how to collect it in digitally. So what I'm doing is I have a lot of physical art collectors and these card collectors as well, that I'm offering the one-of-ones on my shop as a painting, where if you want one that hasn't been reserved yet digitally, I will create an original painting of it, and then I'll send you the NFT. in addition. So it's physical first, digital second.
Okay.
And then if you want to have the digital first, I'm working with Jonathan Cologne. These are all one-of-a-kind symbols that made up the co-created grids that will be locked after Sunday. But the OG symbols are really important, and I want people to know that they're available. I want them to get into the right hands. And if you're going through the co-creation process and you can't stop looking at one of those symbols, send me an inquiry about that one, and we'd love to get it into the right hands of people who really resonate with it. It's not a random mint. It's the opposite of a random mint. We want these characters to find their homes, like their forever homes, ideally. So thank you for letting me share all the aspects of this collection, the co-creation, the one-of-ones, the physical, my story. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And my last piece of inspiration, I would say, is beyond making art, think about systems for other people to express themselves, because you don't know what's going to come from that. And I think that surprise is even more beautiful than the surprise that I have when I'm in my studio painting alone. It's more rich. It reminds me of those conversations with the muralists that I had back in the day. So open up your door for other people to come into your kitchen and play.
All right. Eric is inviting all the cooks into the kitchen.
Chef Dot in the kitchen right now.
All right, Chef Dot, one more question. We're going to close out. I need a song. I always ask the guest to pick the closing song. If I don't know if something comes right to mind, or if you want to think about it for a couple minutes. I need 2 minutes to close out the show. Then we're going to come back. We're going to say goodbye to everybody who left comments. And then we're going to end on the song. And maybe that video. I think that video would be a nice way to close out the show off of GLiFS. The little video promo. I think that's awesome as well. And then we'll close out with the song. I don't need you for that, but just hang out till so we say goodbye to everybody. The song, YouTube link, and just shoot that to me wherever. Let me know where the link is. But let me close out the show, and I'll be back in 2 minutes.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right. Good show. Good show. All right. All right, guys. So for everybody who is aware of my situation, the show's coming back. I just needed some time to work out my personal situation. So, I was at the show enjoying Efdot's GLiFS opening on Wednesday. And, he says, you got to jump on the show. And he's immediately inspired. Yeah, we got to get this message out there. So I'm like, all right, cool. And then here we are doing a show. So the show's not going anywhere. So I'll be back full time. But I couldn't pass this opportunity. I've asked Eric to jump on now for almost 8-9 months, and I thought this was a great opportunity. So, made some time. My friend in there is laying down, so it worked out perfectly. Great show. I don't know when we'll be back. I'll be back every now and then, I am sure, when I lock a guest. But we will pick it up. We'll be back in our consistent schedule once nature takes its course. On that note, I want to thank everybody for coming in, being part of this. I want to thank Efdot for being a part of this. Eric, thank you very much. We're going to jump back to him now. We have TGIF Spaces. We're going to run for 2 hours right after this, so you're welcome to jump in the space and say hello. Also, always Tuesday, Link by Art. I'll always be in that space 9 to 11 with Sketch and Kat, my co-hosts. And the show and the auctions will all take place and pick themselves back up once my life resumes back to a normal pace. On that note, guys, I want to say thank you very much. Enjoy your Friday. Go out there, create something great. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And it's just like riding a bike. Just get back up on the mic and on the camera and make it happen. On that note, we'll bring Efdot back up. Eric, be aware you are on. And let's get this song. Let's say goodbye to you guys. And let's get on with our Friday and our weekend. I want all you guys to have a great weekend. And shout out to
the song that I sent you is a song that I use in the studio when I'm trying to get into the zone and feel the rhythm of life in my marks that I make. So the intro is a little crazy, but it picks up, and it's really an interesting melody by John Hopkins,
all right.
Instrumental ambient music artist.
let's get this over here. Let's get this guy ready to log. Okay, we'll get that logged up to go. And on that note, let's say goodbye
Penny.
to everybody. Let's start saying goodbye to everybody. Okay. Penny, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being part of the show. who does not like animals? Usually I have my cat sitting here. Okay. Let's just go through everybody and see what's going on over on Twitch. Ghost, good to see you. I know it's been a while. Thank you very much. Show was a great show. Appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on being back on TGIF. I needed a little break, but thank you for supporting. Everybody else on Twitch, thank you for tuning in. And Ghost, if you're still out there, you got a shot at some free artwork. All you got to do is requote tweet the show and the part you like the most, and that will put you into the possibility of being drawn for a work of art. Over on Facebook, Big Money, Monique. Manic or Monique. Manic, I think it's Manic. Manic, Big Money, good to see you guys. Thank you for joining in. If you guys want an opportunity at a work of art by Efdot, get over and requote the show on X or IG and make sure you let him know what his favorite part of the show is. Make sure you tag him, and that will give you an opportunity to be in the drawing for a work of art. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting on Facebook. Over on YouTube, we're still always quiet on YouTube. One day there'll be thousands, but not today. IG. What's up, guys? Over on IG. Pega, good to see you. Trish, good to see you. DeFont. That's right, Trish, DeFont. I got to get everybody's comments coming down during the show because I got to respond to you guys. We got to make this more interactive. But DeFont was the site I lived on. Trish said she worked with Scratch 2 in NYC. Vander Chief, Hudasaka says hello. Mindset Chiroa, Mind Souls. Good to see you doing HOP. Would love to chat with Efdot about doing a special project via Webby. Maybe you too, Marc. We can talk in the near future. Chiroa is one of the promotions manager over at Webby. Webby is this a platform where you run the very good casting calls, all focused on art. Creative Owls is over there. And so there's a very good group of people. So maybe I could connect you guys and you guys can do something together. Noitaco, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining. Tom, Triple, Eric, Colm, L. Eric, good to see you. Freeze Chaz, good to see you. Posh, good to see you. And Art of Nafis, good to see all you guys. If you guys want to crack at a free work of art, you got to just requote this show and let everybody know what you liked. And make sure you tag Efdot. Okay, what else do we have? Last but not least, let's move over to X. You guys on X, Mari, my producer in the background, feeding me my questions. Thank you very much. I appreciate you very much. Lord, good to see you. Hopefully we'll see you a little later. Hito, good to see you. And Chiroa, good to see you over here. Guys, over here as well, requote tweet the show for a chance at getting selected for a piece of art. On that note, that's everybody. I want to say thank you to everybody. I appreciate all you guys. Efdot, Eric, thank you very much for being part of the show. You're probably looking at the wrong camera because sometimes I forget to switch cameras. Let me put this camera back on so I can. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to get you on here. What a fantastic show. I kind of giggled when you were like, 2 hours, man, that's a long show. I'm like, you have no idea how fast 2 hours goes. And it did. It flew a little longer, but great show, man. I want to say thank you very much and appreciate you very much. On that note, we're going to play your little piece on GLiFS. Let's bring that up. And then from there, I'm going to hit the music, bring up your art. Now's your last chance to say goodbye to everybody, Eric.
Yeah, while you're playing the song, just scroll through the GLiFS feed. I'm curious how that syncs up with the sound. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this story and this conversation. And look forward to seeing what you all make. Thank you again.
All right. Awesome. All right, guys. On that note, we're going to play out. I'm going to play. Let's see. Let's bring up.
Luminous Beings by John Hopkins is the song.
Where are we? Where are we?
Inspired by a
There we go.
psychedelic trip. This song.
Let's. I want to
And-
bring this up real quick. Okay. I'm gonna. How long? A minute 43. I'm gonna play the GLiFS promo video that's on the site,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna
That's
come
good.
back. I'm gonna hit the song, and we're gonna run the feed through the song, and then we're gonna be gone. All right. Guys. Let's do it.
We're on a mission to build the world's most uplifting visual language. What started years ago as 30 sketches has evolved into 300 animated symbols. Now, 3,000 collector-made compositions will be built by you through a co-creation process that we've made just for this. In 2019, I had just gotten back from a 2-year stint of living and traveling around South America. I studied design and typography, so I learned a lot about how letter forms work. And so I'm always very hyper aware when I'm traveling of all the unique typography. I've been connected to all these different cultures over the years through mural projects, collaborations. I think it's so fascinating how certain things appeared across the world in history in completely different areas of the planet, but their visual languages have commonalities. I created hundreds of these drawings when I got back to my studio. I would lay out all these 8-inch by 8-inch pieces of paper and just dance around the table. Put lines and dots in all yellow, and then build darker and darker and darker until it's complete. Each glyph is made up of lines and dots in 4 different colors. There's a shadow, a highlight, and 2 midtones. They move on a 7-frame loop that are all hand-drawn, coming right back to where they started. And I try to take these feelings and these stories and these moments and translate them into something that can be arranged into a larger composition. The pieces are either 2x2, 3x3, or 4x4. GLiFS is an exploration of participatory art. 300 animated symbols I've compiled and hand-drawn over the years and created an experiment where people can play with them, express themselves, tell their story, and have some fun.
All right.
My name's Efdot.
Awesome.
You've stumbled into my most recent.
Let's get the feed up. Let's get these artworks up. I should have put that up full screen. Let me bring this up full screen. There we go. There we go. Full artwork. Okay. On that note, it's been a pleasure, guys. We're going to hit this track, and we are out. Don't forget to quote, tweet, tag Efdot, and get a chance at having an original piece. It's been a pleasure, y'all.
Be able to tap with your arrow key too.
And that was a damn good show. Enjoy your weekend, guys. See you on the next one. Peace.